want you to know that prior to Judge Simpson's ruling on Friday, June 14th, UPMC reached out to pick up on discussions toward a remedy for the people of Western Pennsylvania. That outreach set in motion intense dialogue over the past week. First, between me and Jeffrey Romoff of UPMC, subsequently with David Holmberg of Highmark, and then culminating in talks between the three of us together. It was an honest and tough and productive dialogue about the steps we could take together to protect access to care, regardless of what the court might ultimately say. Well, I will not go into details about those rigorous conversations. I want you and everybody watching to know that I never stopped fighting for the good people of Western Pennsylvania. And now, I'm here to tell you the result. Today, I can announce that we have an historic agreement to continue world-class care for the people of Western Pennsylvania. UPMC and Highmark have agreed to enter into a 10-year agreement, a 10-year contract to make UPMC facilities available to all Highmark customers. This deal goes beyond UPMC specialty hospitals like Hillman and Children. All UPMC hospitals and practitioners are now an option for Highmark's insured. This new contract is set to go into effect on July 1st, at the time of the expiration of the consent decrees, meaning patients will not face any disruption in their care. Patients who felt in limbo, families looking to transfer lifelong primary care providers, and these two healthcare institutions will now be able to return to regular order, focusing on solutions rather than problems. As a result of these discussions, patients are no longer caught in the middle, and the power is returned to the consumers. That's why my office took action to protect the millions of Pennsylvanians who rely on UPMC for their health care and for their well-being. I could not be more grateful to these two companies. They were able to put aside their differences, even in the final hours of the existing consent decrees, and focus on a cause bigger than them. I'm confident that after spending many, many hours with these gentlemen, that we now not only have a new contract, but indeed a new foundation to address problems and challenges as they emerge. They have pledged directly to me and to each other that they will no longer act as adversaries, but instead work as allies, and we will all be better off for it. Patients, the region, and the Commonwealth. It's important to note that unlike the consent decrees, this new contract is between two parties, not the government. And it is an unprecedented 10 years, which will give the people comfort and consistency and allow both parties to plan and make critical investments to support healthcare choice and outcomes in the future. This is the longest deal I understand that UPMC has ever made with any insurer. That's 10 years of stable care for all, working families, the elderly, cancer patients, and for sick kids. Over 2 million people rely on UPMC and Highmark for their care and trust these institutions with their lives. Through this contract, they are doing right by the people of Pennsylvania. The real thanks, though, goes to the thousands of everyday Pennsylvanians who refuse to give up the fight and for always making their voices heard. This deal is a deal for everyone. The working mom who didn't want to switch pediatricians, the senior on Medicare Advantage, and the men and women who serve this country who seek health care in Western Pennsylvania. So I want to thank each and every Pennsylvanian who contacted my office, who called their elected officials, and who wrote to their local newspapers about what they stood to lose if these institutions refused to work together. This combination of a public uprising, of tough talks, and of corporate cooperation cannot go unnoticed. We have a first-of-its-kind commitment because everyone worked together, and I'm proud of the role that the Office of Attorney General played in that process. When you're sick, every day matters. Today, millions of Pennsylvanians and their families can rest easier knowing they don't have to worry about their care changing after June 30th. This agreement has eliminated angst from the marketplace and from the hearts of Pennsylvania families. It has re-injected real choice back into the marketplace. It establishes a foundation for healthcare innovation and opportunity. And most importantly, it has delivered justice to the good people of Western Pennsylvania, and they deserve it.
This is a really, really big deal. This is something that has been dividing this community and really served as a potential problem for all of Pennsylvania ever since I've been in office. And I want to applaud Attorney General Josh Shapiro for actually the work that he has done to bring this to a really nice conclusion. You have done a great thing here, you and your staff, all of you. So thank you on behalf of every Pennsylvanian for what you have done. And I also want to thank the two organizations who, as the Attorney General pointed out, came to an agreement without the government forcing anything on them. These two organizations, UPMC and Highmark, Jeff Romoff, David Holmberg, and their boards came together understanding that this was something that just had to be done in the interest of the people of Western Pennsylvania. It's really an important and a delicate balancing act is what it was. In this, the Attorney General and these two organizations were trying to reconcile two very difficult things. On the one hand, maintaining everything that they had done to create two world-class healthcare organizations, world-class, right here in Pennsylvania. But the second thing, to balance that and the inducements they needed to have to make sure that they were creating that kind of world-class healthcare organization, balance that with the need for Pennsylvanians to have access to it. And that's what this agreement does. It creates a very, very fine balance between those two things to make sure that they'll continue to be world-class organizations and that they will continue in a consistent way to be accessible to the people of Western Pennsylvania. It's a nice thing, it's a great thing for the people of Western Pennsylvania. It sets a precedent, I think, for the way organizations, as we move forward and more companies, more healthcare organizations face this kind of challenge, figure out how to come to an agreement. Western Pennsylvanians now have 10 years consistency. They know what to expect. They have access to the finest healthcare system in the world, and they will continue to have that for 10 years. One of the challenges was that this actually is double what normally happens in these things. Are normally 5 years. The Attorney General was able to get the parties to agree to a 10-year agreement, and that is an impressive thing. So the people of Western Pennsylvania are winners, but people all across Pennsylvania, as we deal with this in every other community throughout this Commonwealth, they're all of us, 12.8 million Pennsylvanians are winners as a result of this. So I just want to thank you, Josh. You have worked long and hard on this, and your staff and your team, and I want to thank the UPMC and Highmark teams for coming together and doing what's in the best interest of the people of Pennsylvania. This is an important decision. This is a big deal for all of us in Pennsylvania, especially a big deal for the folks living in Western Pennsylvania. Thank you very much for your hard work.